Dude, I'm getting raped by another pink dude. Look at this.
I don't know about you guys, but I can't even believe the DS has been going as strong as it has for as long as it has. I remember when this puppy first came out. I was visiting my family for Christmas, and I showed my grandpa that his favorite game, Super Mario 64, was now playable on a portable console with 3 new characters to play as, 30 brand new stars to collect, improved character models and textures, and a boatload of new touchscreen-based micro games, all on a cartridge that was this big. At the time, we both thought it was the most amazing thing we'd ever seen. Now, obviously, we've come a long way from those times. But the DS has had a really long and strong, healthy lifespan. And if you would have told me back then that it would grow up to be my favorite console of all time, well, to be honest, I'm not sure what I would have said, but that's where we stand today. Now that its little brother, the 3DS, is here, it's time to pay tribute to the best-selling console of last generation, and my personal favorite console of all time. I'm going to leave that in. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say a few things really quick. First of all, Chrono Trigger and Kirby Superstar, 2 of my favorite games ever made, are playable on the DS. So I decided to disqualify them just so that this list is entirely new DS experiences. Second of all, I'm kind of flat broke right now, so I haven't been able to experience some of the recent critical successes on the DS, like Ghost Trick, Okami Den 999. So it's very possible that one or all of those games could be on this list, but I can't judge them if I haven't played them. So for now, just enjoy my list as it stands. Alright, so I won't waste any more of your time, so let's get started with number 10!
Scribblenauts was easily the game I was most excited for in 2009. It was disappointing, to say the least. The premise was solid, but the controls were poor and the action puzzles were overly difficult, and actually seemed to discourage the creative use of words. There are only so many words you can use to fly over a cliff, and in this game, there are way more cliffs to fly over than there are words to use. So yes, Scribblenauts was disappointing, but no game could have lived up to that hype. When it did come out, Matt and I told each other that we would be willing to buy it again, at full price, if only they had allowed the use of D-pad controls. Well, in 2010, Fifth Cell delivered Super Scribblenauts, a sequel well worthy of that title. It promised D-pad controls, so I was obligated to buy it. What I didn't expect was for absolutely everything about it to be better. You can control Maxwell with the D-pad, obviously. The puzzles are more specifically designed so that you can't use the same words to solve them all. And holy shit, the adjectives. I can't even believe how much the addition of adjectives changes this game. Now, there's no excuse for repeatedly falling back on jetpack and hella backpack, when you can ride to the Starite in style atop a rideable ghost bagel, or a friendly winged raptor, or a sweaty pregnant bacon helicopter. The possibilities are truly endless when they only seemed endless in the first game. The unbridled creativity that Super Scribblenauts represents is more than enough to let it slip into my top 10 favorite DS games.
Number 9!
Ruby and Sapphire for the Game Boy Advance was an unbelievable step backwards from the far superior Gold and Silver. The Pokemon designs were lamer, the world was half as big, they removed the day and night system, and since you couldn't transfer old Pokemon to Ruby and Sapphire until the later Game Boy Advance games came out, you could only catch a total of 200 Pokemon between Ruby and Sapphire. What kind of Pokemon sequel has less Pokemon in it than its predecessor? A bullshit one, that's what. The worst thing about Ruby and Sapphire is that you didn't realize how much it sucked until you beat the game and realized that, yeah, that really is all there is. So imagine my pleasant surprise when Pokemon Pearl version came along, with Night and Day returning, some awesome new Pokemon evolutions, surprisingly cool 3D environments, and the ability to get every Pokemon from the previous 3 generations onto your cart somehow. But by far, the biggest improvement, and the feature that actually got me to care about competitive battling, was the addition of online play. Training and battling Pokemon was more fun and satisfying than ever, now that I could test out my team of seasoned veterans against people all over the world. Now, I know Diamond and Pearl were still a step behind Gold and Silver, because there was still only one region, but there was so much new stuff to do after you beat the game that I was able to forgive them for it. There were whole new areas to explore, new dungeons, and for better or worse, a shit ton of new legendaries to catch. For a while, Diamond and Pearl were the definitive Pokemon games, and even a staunch Silverphile like myself had to call Pearl my favorite of the series yet. For a while.
Number 8!
Now, I love the Gold and Sun games for the Game Boy Advance. I love the idea that the same magic spells you can use to slay enemies can also be used to radically alter the environment and help you solve puzzles. Almost every RPG has tedious puzzles on the way to the dungeon boss, but Gold and Sun was the first game where I found myself enjoying the puzzles on the way to the boss, as much as the boss itself. I love the Djinn system in these games, and how it affects the availability of summons and magic. It adds a level of strategy to every single battle in the game. Most RPGs have common enemies that are easily dispatched by mashing the attack button, and it's the bosses that force you to think a little more. But managing your Djinn in Gold and Sun keeps you on your toes constantly. It's a thinking man's RPG, and I for one love it. That said, I think Dark Dawn for the DS actually turned out to be the best of the three. The game smartly weans you onto the new cast of characters by starting you out with Isaac and Garrett along your side, so that by the time Matthew and company come into their own as heroes, you're ready to invest yourself in them instead of just wishing you were playing as the old cast. I really don't have much more to say about this game. It's just straight up fun. The puzzles and battle system are just as fun as ever, and the summons are pointlessly gorgeous and fun to watch. I do have one complaint though. The encounter rate in this game is way too high. Like, it's way too high. Still, if you've ever in your life enjoyed a turn-based RPG, I would check out Gold and Sun Dark Dawn. Also, Josh beat this game an hour before me and I fucking hate him.
Number 7!
The Ace Attorney series is hands down one of the best experiences to be had anywhere. Every single character in the series is so alive and so well realized that I can't help but fall in love with every single one of them. The series barely even takes itself seriously, peppering gripping courtroom drama with hilariously over-the-top sprites and text. It sounds like it wouldn't jive, but it's a match made in heaven, truly something that must be experienced to be believed. Really, I would include the whole series on this list, but I decided to narrow down the Phoenix arc to its final game, Trials and Tribulations. Now let me just say that Trials and Tribulations is only so great because of the games that came before it. As Don already said, it's still a great game on its own, but as a cap to the series, it's a masterpiece. By this point, you know these characters in and out, and that's what makes the drama of this game so powerful and so unforgettable. You know to be worried when Morgan Fay's name comes up. You know to go, oh shit, what about Edgeworth when an earthquake hits? You can reasonably guess why Pearl exactly can't call a certain spirit. You feel Goto's pain that much more deeply. And you shit your pants when you hear the best song in the series make its triumphant return. All of this stuff, though it is explained for the more casual player, it just can't be enjoyed the same way that it can by somebody who's been trucking with the series the whole way through. And that's what makes the third game the best. It builds on what's already been established and ends in a climax so spectacularly ridiculous that I wouldn't have it any other way. If you haven't experienced the Ace Attorney series from start to finish, then you haven't experienced the Ace Attorney series at all.
Number 6!
I've got a puzzle for you. How do you make silly brain teasers one of the most fun experiences on the DS? Luke, here's my answer. You give it an endearing steampunk setting and a cast of wonderful characters who are literally impossible to forget, and you've got the Professor Layton series.
And now to test my theory.
The series is so great for all the same reasons as Phoenix Wright. It has hardly anything to do with the gameplay, which is entirely focused around clicking on things, and all to do with how ridiculously cool and human every single character is. Don't get me wrong, the puzzles are fun and addicting, and many of them will kick your ass.
Here goes!
But Layton and his sidekick Luke are some of the most fiercely likable characters on the DS, or anywhere for that matter. Just like with the Ace Attorney series, I really could have put all three of these games on this list, but I settled on my personal favorite, Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box. Don't get me wrong, The third game, Professor Layton and the Unwanted Future, is totally great as well. Just like the third Phoenix Wright game, it builds on what's been established previously and twists it all into a completely satisfying conclusion. But Diabolical Box wins it for me with a cooler villain and a much cooler setting. I'll openly admit, I'm a huge sucker for trains in video games, like the one you spend the first half of this game on. There's just something about being cooped up on a train that brings out great character development. I love getting to know all the passengers and their stories and having to solve their problems. It's totally like the 6th chapter in Paper Mario 2. The feel of riding on a train to an unknown destination and getting to know your fellow passengers, some of which you like and some of which you don't, is just straight up relaxing, and I eat that shit up. But that's only the first half of the game. The second half is spent in the town of Full Sense, a place twice as mysterious and 3 times as enchanting as St. Mystere from the first game. Not only does the town of St. Mystere have the word mysterious in its name, but you spend the entire game there, so they have twice as much time to build up the mystique. Full Sense didn't have that luxury, and still managed to be a much richer, cooler setting. That's why Diabolical Box is such a strong entry in the Layton series, and that's why it's my number 6 pick.
Number 5!
So I know I summed up Phoenix Wright's story arc with just one game, but I love the Ace Attorney series way too goddamn much to sum up the whole series that way. So naturally, I couldn't keep Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney Investigations off of this list. It pains me to say this, but just about everything in this game is better than the rest of the series. It's amazing how much more fun it is investigating things when you can see Edgeworth investigating things. It's amazing how much easier it is to keep track of where you've been when you can actually see Edgeworth going there. I absolutely love how we finally get to see 2 characters on screen at once, speaking to each other. See, here's the main difference between Edgeworth and Wright. The 3 games starring Phoenix Wright were originally for the Game Boy Advance in Japan. They were just ported to the DS to reach a broader audience. And it shows. Edgeworth is a game built from the ground up to utilize the features of the DS, and it pays off wonderfully. Investigations are more fun and more satisfying. With the use of the touchscreen, you can incorporate more in-depth puzzles than just clicking on things. Yeah, I know the bonus 5th case of Phoenix Wright 1 and the entirety of Apollo Justice were also built from the ground up for the DS, and there are some cool touchscreen things you can do in those, but neither of them feel as polished or as well planned as Miles Edgeworth does. In the end, the story and characters of the Edgeworth game are just as strong as the rest of the series. The reason Edgeworth gets the number 5 spot over Trials and Tribulations is that the actual gameplay is just more solid. When I finished it the first time, I played it all the way through again immediately, and I can't say that about any of the other Ace Attorney games. So, if you haven't played it, do play it, and buy it, because I really want to get Ace Attorney Investigations too.
Number 4!
Okay, so, here are some things you should know about me. I suck at video games, I'm a thing for short girls with glasses, and I will buy any goddamn game with Kingdom Hearts in the title. Okay, so I know there's so much wrong with this series, so much that I want to do an entire series of videos on what's wrong with it. But I guess that's a video for another day. Because I fucking love Kingdom Hearts, and I'm not ashamed of it. Kingdom Hearts' dumb subtitle really surprised me in particular. When they announced that it was going to follow Roxas during his time in the organization, and then it was going to introduce a 14th member of Organization 13, let me repeat that, a 14th member of Organization 13, my immediate reaction was something along the lines of, I mean seriously, on paper it reads like a bad fan fiction. Well, actually, I guess the whole series reads like that, but anyway, this is the game that really did make me care about Roxas. In Kingdom Hearts 2, he was sort of sloppily introduced, and by the time you got sort of attached to him, he was gone, and you were back to playing as Sora for the rest of the game. But here, where the entire game is set in his perspective, you really get to delve into the tragedy of the character. It's a lot like Crisis Core for the PSP. Going in, you know things won't end well for Zack, so you spend the whole game sort of sad that it's eventually going to end. Roxas is treated the same way here. I know it sounds like a bad thing, but it's a really effective way to get you to appreciate just how tragic this character is. Even Shion ended up being a really complex and tragic character, almost the opposite of the Mary Sue I expected her to be. In the end, the emotions in this game are what makes it so strong. You really get into the characters' heads and want to root for them even knowing they don't get a happy ending. It's really ironic and effective that such strong and sincere emotions can be felt for a game that's literally about a group of people who can't feel emotions. No, it isn't as good as Birth by Sleep for the PSP. The game is broken up into missions and you don't really get to explore all of a world at once, which is disappointing. But it's still a great game with exceptionally challenging bosses, and it's well worth checking out.
Number 3!
Speed agents are at your service.
Oh man, we're in the top 3 now. The pressure is just too much. I don't think I can handle it. I can't breathe. I can't hear myself think. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Sweet mother of Khan, what more could I possibly say about Elite Beat Agents? The comic book presentation is simply a joy to behold. The goofy dance moves of the agents are specifically engineered to make even the most stone-cold bastard crack a smile. The studio covers of popular dance, rock, and pop songs are actually pretty good. Hell, if they can make La La listenable, and even, in my opinion, improve on the Rolling Stones, they're doing something right. This is the most delightfully wacky rhythm game you'll ever...
Did you check the toilets on the right? Did you check the toilets on the right?
Okay, well, it's up there. Easy number 2. If you watch Matt's video, you know the funny story of how Elite Beat Agents came to American shores, and the sad story of how criminally underrated this game is. I wish I had more to say about it, but after staring at Notepad for a half hour, I just can't think of anything else to say other than, this game is fun as hell, go play it right now. It's easily my 3rd favorite experience on the DS.
Number 2.
My number 2 pick is the DS game that I've played for more hours than any other. It might very well be the game, period, that I've played for more hours than any other. This is pretty amazing when you consider that I can't even read this game. What am I talking about? Jump Ultimate Stars. Holy hell, Jump Ultimate Stars. I feel more than confident in saying that this is the definitive fighting experience on the DS. I still pick up this game and play it every so often. I sunk more hours into online battles with Don and Rogogot than most of you have probably even played this game. And the sad thing is, I've spent even more time than that just making and trying out new decks. Jump Superstars was a pretty good game, but Jump Ultimate Stars is light years ahead of it, and well deserving of the title. The extensive cast of characters from Shonen Jump's most popular manga is one of the best fighting rosters around, and the hand-drawn sprites and backgrounds of this game are so alive and so colorful that I even like playing as characters that I hate. The deck-making system is simple and intuitive, and it allows for endless combinations of playable characters and assists. The game plays a lot like Smash Brothers, and all the most famous attacks from Goku or Luffy or Yusuke are perfectly integrated into a relentlessly addictive party fighter that's easy to learn and nearly impossible to master. It's so much fun. It's so much fun! It really is a shame that this game never made it to the US, but it plays just fine on any American DS or 3DS. So if you don't own it, hunt it down and play the shit out of it.
So here we are at number 1. I bet you're wondering, what could it possibly be? My favorite game from my favorite console? I bet you want to know. Well, here's my question to you. Do you even have to ask? Number 1!
Okay. I know I disqualified Kirby Superstar and Chrono Trigger, and I also know that both of these games probably had enough extra content to justify putting them in here. But see, Heart Gold and Soul Silver aren't just ports with extra content, and they're not just enhanced remakes, or whatever you want to call them, they're entirely new experiences. See, what makes Chrono Trigger and Kirby Superstar so great was already there. The DS versions just built upon that and made them even better. But what makes Pokemon Soul Silver an awe-inspiring masterpiece is all the stuff that they added. Where do I even start? The Team Rocket admins are their own characters with actual personalities. The graphics are gorgeous. The battle system is revised to match the changes that have occurred since the original Gold and Silver. The Safari Zone is back. For the first time, any Pokemon you damn well please can follow you on the world map. New additions to the game like the Pokewalker and new channels on the Pokegear radio allow you to catch Pokemon from Ruby and Sapphire as well as Diamond and Pearl. Dear God, the Pokewalker! What a senselessly fun and addictive peripheral. They added rematches with the Elite Four and all 16 gym leaders. Yes, 16! That's another reason why Gold and Silver are the best. There's 2 regions! When you get all 8 badges and beat the Elite Four, you're only halfway through with the game, making Gold and Silver, and especially Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where the legendaries from Red and Blue reappear, and there are new routes to explore, the longest Pokemon games. The online capabilities from Diamond and Pearl have been carried over, opening up competitive battling even further. How about the Goofy Photographer? The ability to wear a Team Rocket costume? The Pokeathlon, which I'm told is actually pretty fun? Any way you slice it, Soul Silver is the best damn Pokemon game and the best damn DS game, and I couldn't disqualify it for being a remake even if I wanted to. Any game that I've played for over 233 hours and helped found a YouTube channel just to showcase can only be so low on a list like this, remake or not.
So that about wraps it up for Adam and Ditto's look back at our personal favorite DS games. Thanks a lot for watching all of our videos. I hope you enjoyed them as much as we enjoyed making them. I'm sure everybody out there's got their own opinions, and we'd love to hear them, but none of you are going to change our minds, so it's alright. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that this list was really hard to narrow down, and even harder to put in any sort of order. And a little top 10 DS list just doesn't do the system justice. For me personally, any of these games could have made it into my top 10. Which says a lot considering this is about 15 games here, meaning I had to narrow it down from 25. So, yeah, the system's really near and dear to my heart. I'm sure it's very near and dear to many of yours. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned to Adam and Ditto, because we got some cool stuff coming up, hopefully. Maybe.
Also, did you guys know Rob is playable in Mario Kart DS?